Paid Search Podcast. My name is Chris, and today we're going to talk about Google Ads. I have a treat for you guys. I'm going to talk about something that I don't usually discuss. I'm going to talk about my favorite script, Google Ads. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to explain how it works, why I think it's useful, why I think it's relevant. We're going to talk with someone that has generated an amazing script that I think does a great job at something all managers need in Google Ads. So before we do that, I want to tell you about my sponsor, Opteo. That's opteo.com/PSP to get a 28-day free trial of the only software out there that can really do everything you need from A to Z. This thing will help you from managing your keywords, adjusting your bids, adjusting your budget. It helps you from every aspect of Google Ads that you need to ensure that your account is working properly. So this is a special offer that you only get right here on the Paid Search Podcast. And it helps you from search campaigns, shopping campaigns, even Performance Max campaigns, everything inside of Google Ads. It's designed for that purpose. So if you need a system that can make sure that you're getting the most out of Google Ads, and it helps you to do these decisions, make these decisions faster than you could do normally, you've got to check out Opteo. That's opteo.com/PSP. Use the chat box at the bottom of the screen to tell them that you heard about it from me right here on the Paid Search Podcast, and they'll give you that 28-day free trial. Opteo.com/PSP. Okay, so right now I'm going to bring in my friend Artur, who is going to discuss a tool that really can help you improve the quality of your traffic, get a lot done using a script that you probably haven't heard of, but I find to be highly valuable. So let's jump over to that. Artur MacLellan, thank you so much for being here. I am really interested to talk to you about a topic I don't discuss very much, scripts, and I'm ready to dive in. Thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's funny like how full circle this goes, because one of the first things that I listened to when I was getting into paid search was the Paid Search Podcast. And so I feel like I know you way better than you know me. But yeah, it's just thank you so much for inviting me on this. And I look forward to hopefully helping someone else who's, just kind of getting started in their journeys. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, it's something that you kind of held my hand through, because I'm not familiar with scripts. It's not something I've really dived into. And I think I want to start with that. I want to discuss maybe just real briefly why I haven't found scripts to be particularly something that was interesting to me. And then I want to talk about kind of what they are. So let me give an explanation about what it is and why I kind of drew the line. So for me, scripts is, in my head, it was something that really took a shortcut to something that I find works a lot better whenever I grind and just do the work myself on the account. That's the way I viewed them before. I didn't find that any script could really help me power through something and do it any better than I could just do it on my own. I found that it was shortcuts that led to a lot of, I don't know, laziness almost is kind of was in my head, because I can say, I could build this really crappy set of campaigns and ad groups, and then I can throw a script at it and it can make up for the bad stuff that I've done. That's kind of what I thought. But over the years, Google Ads has changed, and I don't feel like everything that we want to accomplish can be done through just brute force work with, by our own hands. It's not something that just can be accomplished, because there's a lot of things that work against us in Google Ads, and that's specifically what your script is accomplishing. So real briefly, scripts, are just a few lines of code that accomplish a specific tool or a specific goal in Google Ads to do one thing or multiple things. And is that a good definition of it, or would you define it even broader or more specifically than that?
Yeah, I mean, it's designed to basically be able to pull data or do a specific task within Google Ads. And so I don't know if you've heard of Mike Rhodes. He's like one of the godfathers of scripts. And
Okay.
the thing that he's done a lot of is actually pulling data from the Google Ads interface that you couldn't necessarily find by yourself or get. And so that's one of the use cases. The other use case is like what we've done here, where you can automate a task that would typically take you longer. And I agree with you. There's a lot of scripts that are just like, well, this is taking me longer to actually get this going and like doing what I want it to do. I could just go in and do it myself. But in my case, and the reason as to why, I've developed this broad match modifier script is because I was spending hours negating out keywords, search terms. And it's just like, it's like an hour a day per client to just like, no, I don't want this. No, I don't want this. No, I don't. It's like, and I was just like, I feel like there's got to be a better way to, be able to do this. And so that's where I was able to kind of develop this. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what a script is either getting insights, further insights that you couldn't necessarily get from the interface, or kind of doing a specific task.
Okay. So and that's specifically where I bought in and realized, this is something I am interested in, because that's where the line in the sand for me was. Suddenly, the openness, the high variation of keywords in 2025 of Google Ads keywords and search campaigns becomes so much of a task to try and manage, is that no longer am I able to manually just push through and just kind of add some. It becomes overwhelming, especially with higher and higher spend, and if you wanted to test something with a little more with broad keywords or something like that, it becomes almost unmanageable to try and accomplish something like this. So that's when I was really interested when I heard about your script that can accomplish something that is essentially impossible for me to do. I just don't have the time, and people listening to the podcast don't have time either. So what I'm interested in that this script does, and I'll let you explain kind of how it works and what it does specifically. But for me, as a novice in this, the one thing that it does is it tames keywords that would otherwise go out of bounds from what I want them to accomplish. If I set up a keyword, an exact match keyword, a broad match keyword, a phrase match keyword, I would hope that the search terms that this keyword gets are very close to, if not exactly the same, of that original keyword. Now, 2020, since 2021, really, that has not been the case. And I find that it continues to get broader and broader. It only grows. So this tool helps to rein in this, problem in a way that takes zero extra time, which is really something that I need. Not in every account. I do not advocate to use this everywhere all the time. And I'll talk more about that a little bit later, about when I think I use it and when I think it's best used. But tell me a bit about like how you see the tool to be used, and what motivated you to make it, and why you think it's a useful tool.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in large part, like broad match, phrase match, exact match, the close variant thing is the thing that is just killing all of us. And it went and moved from basically the text, Google going after the text and matching with that, to intent with the keywords. And so it's basically based off of what the user's intent is versus the actual term. And that's where the whole thing shifted and why everything's going broad. So that's why like exact match feels a lot like what broad used to be. And so I think in a lot of ways, like this brings back the control to be able to say, okay, plumber near me, this broad match modifier script will basically be able to say, okay, this is a term, this is the keyword that I have in this campaign specifically, and so I need you to basically go after search terms that have those three words in it, and that's what it does. So anything that does not have those three words in it will be negated automatically, and that's kind of the magic of this script. And so I think the reason as to why doing that is because, well, one, uh, Google doesn't necessarily care, what you show up for. It cares about meeting whatever goal you've set for the campaign, whether it's maximize conversions, max clicks, manual CPC. And so that's where we have to say, okay, no, for this particular objective, like max clicks, manual CPC, like it doesn't care whether you get conversions or not, but it also doesn't care what search terms you show up for or not. And so that's where this has become extremely valuable, to be able to say, no, 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 I want you to show up for these high intent keywords and search terms because I know that these convert. These always have converted. That hasn't changed. And so let's just keep it there. And so I think that's a large piece as to why I wanted to develop this. And the other thing is, like, anytime I negated, I mean, it started out with me just like spending an hour negating out terms. I was working with a very small US manufacturer who struggled for years, couldn't figure out. I mean, with some of their products were, basically going up against some massive companies, and they weren't sure how to basically get back on to the first page. And so what I ended up, doing all the negatives and all of that kind of stuff, and then basically mirroring that with a campaign that was more broad. And so the control campaign, search campaign that I had all of these negatives directed the broad, and the broad worked a whole lot better because I decided these are the terms that always convert. I've seen it in the account. There's 10 years of history here. It's not like people stopped searching those terms. Like, it's still there. So I want to show up for these terms, and so that I could, get back to the, places that I need to be in order to be first considered. And so that just like started a evolution for me of like, okay, well, when I say Google do this and I control that, how can I save time? Because I probably spent 30 hours, in a month just trying to negate stuff out. Now I install a script, takes 5 minutes, and it's done for me, which is
Right.
amazing. Yeah.
Hourly. And not just, not 5 minutes a day and it's done for you. You do it 5 minutes and it's done hourly, 24/7. I mean, that's the power of the script. That, when you decide this is something I want to try, the amount of time it saves is really infinite, because you don't do something and then it does it for you. You do something, it does it for you constantly, regularly, day to day, and that's something that I don't think applies in every campaign in every instance, but I do think, and that's when I want to get in here, and I want your thoughts on when you think it. If you disagree with me here, I definitely want to hear it. When I think it is a good idea, and when it's not such a great idea to use. So the overarching picture here, I think, why anybody would want to even consider using a tool like this is simply because Google's not matching your keyword to the search term. Okay, so just to start real basic, your keyword is what you type into Google to target, and a search term is what people typed into Google from what they're looking for. So Google matches that search term to the keyword. And so anybody who's interested in a more precise connection between the keyword and the search term, I think this is a good is a good thing to consider. But I do think there's areas that are better than others. And do you think there's any times when maybe it's not a good time to use it? Do you have any thoughts
Yeah,
that way?
so when leveraging like smart bidding, it
Okay.
just
Yeah.
like smart bidding needs time to breathe. And so one of the
Yeah.
biggest mistakes that PPCers do is they're in campaigns that are leveraging. When I say smart bidding, I mean target CPA, maximize conversions, target ROAS, and maximize conversion value. All of those bidding strategies, they have to have time to breathe. And so if you have a script running every single hour, it will never get to the point where it's learned and figured itself out. It will essentially just like be in limbo for a very long time and probably never get to the place where it's working well. I do see areas where it's better when you are either doing it for manual CPC, maximize clicks, or brand campaigns because you want to control the terms and such for those. There's also times where that's where I typically have it running is in those types of campaigns. And then after it's optimized and fully going after the terms that I want it to go after, then switch it over to a smart bidding strategy. So I think
Yeah.
that's kind of a caveat to leveraging the script. Don't throw it into your smart bidding campaigns and expect it to work miracles. It'll probably break them. uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I totally agree because I feel like people should either lean into the algorithm system or directly fight against it and use something outside of the algorithm. I don't think there's there's a happy medium between the two. I don't think that you can directly lean into broad match, target CPA, and then manage your search terms to a micro degree. I think that is you're making them because you're trying to fight two battles at once. You're trying to fight quality versus Google algorithm optimization. I mean, there's two systems that don't really work together and they don't mix well. So I completely agree. And I think that some of the best situations that I've found that are really fun, and they're actually on opposite ends of the spectrum. The first, what I really thought was cool, is now my ability to use broad match keywords with like 4-5 words in them, and that forces the system to match much more thoroughly the search terms that I'm getting. As opposed to a broad match keyword that's only 2 words
mm-hmm.
long. If I've been doing something like hire accountant, then I mean that's going to be extremely loose with how much the script can block. I mean, it's going to block a lot of things, and it's going to allow very little things to go through because it's only going to be, based on just those 2 things, and maybe it doesn't have the word hire. But if I have 4 or 5 words, it's going to allow more things to go and block the ones that if it doesn't match all 4 of my words in that search term, I'm probably not going to want something like that. I want it to at least match all 4 of those. So I thought the broad match with a large number of words was a cool idea to try. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, I really like that I can set up an exact match, with just 2 words, 3 words, and then just leave it. And the system will just start boom, 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 start blocking stuff when that rule is bypassed and my exact match goes outside of what I want it to be. I thought those were kind of fun ways and there's a lot of ways to apply that and kind of adjust it. And I thought that was it's just another tool to play around with that allows me to test things that I had not been able to play with. Really.
Yeah, not without spending a considerable amount of time basically trying to optimize it. So you've been using it for like broad match keywords with what bidding strategies, and is it like non-brand campaigns or kind of what have you been using it for?
Yeah, I've been using all non-brand. Usually, what I focus on anyway, and I use it with manual bids or max clicks. I don't typically use it with target CPA or maximize conversions.
Okay. Yep. And in regards to like max clicks and manual CPC, have you seen it work better with either one of those particular bidding strategies?
I can't attest to any uptick in conversion rate or anything like that, and I don't necessarily have any results to share about, like, this script, took an account from, 2x to 10x. I don't have any kind of, and I'm not usually the kind of person that would say something like that anyway, because most of the time those stories aren't true. And so I don't think that in the end, this script is like a band-aid that can bring a campaign, or let's say more like a miracle drug, let's say, that can take a campaign from failure to success, in 6 weeks. No, I don't think that. What I think this really fits the bill for is just basic control. If I had to put like a header on this, if I were to build a landing page for this script, it would say something like, do you want more control of your keywords? Do you want more control of your traffic? I mean, that's really what this solves for me, is it reduces the high variation of my keywords to something that isn't so overwhelming that I get so frustrated about. And that's what my next point here is. I wanted to get into a little bit about what my results were and what I was shocked about from this. But do you have anything to add from what I had talked about?
Yeah, I think you had mentioned, like, to have that type of control and working with smart bidding, letting them, machine learning algorithm learn, like, those don't mix. And they definitely don't mix within one campaign. Like, it's just very, like, you're fighting the system. Where I have found this to work very well, and what I've deployed with a lot of different clients, is leveraging that the broad match modifier script, having that control in a max clicks campaign, or even a max conversions campaign after it's optimized, and going after the terms that I want it to, switching it over to max conversions, then having a secondary campaign with broad match keywords that are the same exact keywords as the other campaign. And that's where you have the control of target CPA or target ROAS, whatever it may be. And so the performance typically doesn't look great in a max clicks campaign or manual CPC, but it kind of feeds into those other campaigns. And that's where I've seen TCPA, you're able to scale that, targets ROAS, you're able to scale that versus being limited. And so the two worlds can exist, but not within the same campaign.
Good. Yeah. Good. Thank you. You're exactly right. I didn't want to imply that either you use this and you don't use the other. They can be used, but absolutely they can't be used in the same campaign. Thank you. You're completely right. I completely agree. So let's go on to kind of what my results were from testing it, because you and I talked. It ended up a couple of months ago, I think, and I've been running this and testing it with different clients, and here's a couple of things that I did. So I used it for an accounting company. So this is an accounting company that wants specific types of clients. So it was a good fit because I can't just get accounting in general. It needs to be specific, like IT, accounting, SaaS and stuff like that. So what really blew my mind when I started using it is just how much red there was down the line on my search terms. And it really opened my mind to realize there's a lot of unacceptable terms. If my threshold of something that's acceptable or qualified at least contains the 2 or 3 words in that keyword, it turned out 96% was unacceptable and only 4% was acceptable, right? So it was getting so much variation that I quickly realized, and this keyword's just not acceptable. I ended up changing the keyword and realizing, this keyword's so bad. I mean, it opened my eyes much faster when I see all the exclusions that this is bringing in. I realize I need to. This is not something that can be solved with the negative keywords. This is actually a problem with the keyword itself, and I go change the keyword to try and see what I could, get out of it. So one thing that was shocking was just how much misses there were with the keywords when I just have a defined acceptable, not acceptable rule. either it has the words in it or it doesn't, and I was blown
Mm.
away.
Yeah, so it's like almost like helped you to refine what type of keywords you end up using,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
helping you to think about, okay, maybe I need to have this, or longer phrase. Was it typically like longer phrases, or the just what you used with, or
Well, that's what I discovered over time was I realized, once I started seeing how much the system was working to block the junk, I realized you know, I need to pick better keywords for this to be efficient, because when I was picking a normal 2 or 3 word phrase match or even a 2 or 3 word exact match, I realized this is really off. I need to be a little bit longer, more detailed, and the system worked better that way. And my search terms showed up more within my range of acceptability. So it was almost kind of training and teaching me to see something that didn't necessarily fit with what I wanted in the first
mm,
place.
yeah, and like it's all based off of like intent, and I think that like I think that's where it's like, well, everyone's so concerned about PPC specialists losing their jobs, and it's like this example is a pure example of just like, I don't think so, because whatever we input and put into the system is the type of results that we're going to get out. And so if we have more
Yeah.
generic keywords that are not truly high intent and relevant for that particular business, then it's you're going to get mediocre to bad results. And so I think that
Yeah.
everyone's so concerned about their jobs, and I'm like, I don't think so, because we still need to be saying, hey Google, I don't want you to do all of this stuff over here to the left and right. I need you to be razor focused on these terms, because I know that these terms are the terms that people are typing into Google to find me. So like,
Yeah.
I think that's just a great example of like, I don't think we're losing our jobs here, Chris.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we're,
Yeah. It's quite shocking, and when you see it on the screen to realize how much work the system's doing just to accomplish one little thing, you realize, just how much, maintenance can really be involved here. And it all goes down to one simple thing. I mean, it's phase one of Google Ads is just getting qualified traffic. Just get the traffic you want, and this helps you with that primary goal. Just getting the right traffic volume of what you're looking for is going to be important. So here's one other thing that I learned from it. Um, it I used it for a roofing company, okay, and I turned it on for a few weeks, and then I turned it back off because I wanted just kind of a purge to just I was testing some stuff. I didn't want it on all the time, but I just wanted to kind of purge. During a high point during the summer recently, when I was getting a ton of stuff coming through, and I wanted to. The fact that I can turn it on and turn it off was really great, because it's not a permanent thing where you just turn it on and it's just permanently attached and just runs all the time. I can switch it on and switch it off, which I thought was really useful in order to kind of purge the search terms from the account and then kind of have another go at it after turning it back off. I thought that was pretty fun because there was a lot of control, but no extra time involved to make that happen.
yeah, no, that's interesting. And did you find after like you had turned it off that it went broad again, or did it just kind of like contain things? Um,
Now it no, I mean we're talking about Google keywords here. No, they didn't learn their lesson. No, not at all. I mean they went crazy again, but the main thing that I was kind of testing and playing with is the fact that it is something that I can turn on, turn off, and then have control on. It's not a permanently on, permanently off thing. So the more I play with it, the more I kind of realized. I mean, there's a lot of aspects to this tool that could be applied that I hadn't thought of. And the last thing I'll talk about here is, I mean, the biggest drawback, and this is not the fault of the script. This is just the way that Google works now, post 2020. It only works when you have search terms for the keywords. And if you're missing 40% of the search terms, 30%. At sometimes, sometimes I see 60, 65, 70% of the search terms not showing up, depending on the client. And that limits the tool. I mean, that's extremely upsetting, and I don't like to talk about it very much because it makes me very sad to think about how much data anyone in Google Ads is missing because of that. But that is the biggest drawback, and that is not the fault of the tool. It's the fault of the lack of transparency with
Yeah,
Google.
I mean, you can't negate something that isn't showing up there, and that's the sad reality that we live in now, and it's in the name of privacy. But I think it's more so, when you're using smart bidding strategies, I understand that you have to be a little bit more broad with search terms because it's off of the user. But when it comes to manual bidding and max clicks, it would be great to have 100% visibility. One of the things that I typically like to do when I go into accounts, there's typically 10 to 15 search terms that have just historically, like, these are the winners. These have always done well. Yeah. And as Google has progressed, they're going broader and broader. And so what I end up doing is taking every single one. Like, I did this for an account the other week where it's 10 years of data. And so I took all of the search terms for all 10 years and I downloaded that into a Google Sheet, ran an n-gram analysis, which takes specific words, and basically, compared that to all of the high converting search terms, the 15. And then I said, okay, all of the n-gram words, I'm going to use them as phrase match because they will not negate my high intent words. And I will end up basically adding all of those to lists and add those at the start of the campaign to the campaign. And so basically you're starting off with, I think it was about 50,000 negatives, and then you run the broad match modifier script. And so you start off saying, I don't want all of this other stuff. These search terms that we're no longer seeing now, we were able to see at one time. And so that's kind of a key to kind of bring that back a little bit. But also being able to start in the, kind of pilot seat as like full control. And I've seen that just work extremely well to just stay focused on those 15, search terms and keep it there. And so a lot of people start, they're not doing the work beforehand. And that's something that I have found over and over again. It takes time to do that, but it really can set up the account for performance that it hasn't seen in years because of the fact that Google has, gone a bit more broad than we want it to.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of ways that the tool could be used, and I appreciate you letting me use it and try it out and talking to me about it here. I think it's a unique tool that I maybe I should try scripts more, but I'll tell you right now, I probably won't. This is probably going to be my number one and only Google Ads script that I like. But search terms is a bit of a pet peeve for me, because when it comes down to it, I have to my number one job as a Google Ads manager is to manage the traffic quality first, and the conversions start to take care of themselves if I manage the traffic quality and the risk of those keywords coming in. Until you reach a point when you can trust a automated target CPA, max clicks, or max conversion system, that is not something I really just allow to happen from whatever Google decides to do. So I think the tool fits really well. So with that, I'm sure people are very interested in trying the tool out for themselves. Can you tell people about how they can try it out and your special thing that you told me about earlier before we started recording?
Yeah. So I'll basically have a recording on how to install this exact script. If you've never installed this script before, it can be really intimidating and scary. But the nice thing is that I'll walk you through exactly what to change and how to basically put it into Google Ads and run it. And once you do it once, I mean, Chris can probably attest to this.
Yes.
It was like, oh, that
It's
was it. Am I
yeah.
missing something?
It's yeah. Yeah, for the other old dogs out there, it's a trick that once you do it once, you can realize actually it's quite easy. It's not as intimidating as it sounds. So yes, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, and like when I started installing scripts, it was like, oh, that was it. And then I started developing scripts, and that's a whole nother layer. And being able to kind of create something that is going to help save you time. And that's a lot of the reason as to why I had done this. And so, yeah, I'll have a video just kind of walk you through that. And, you can also just reach out to me on LinkedIn or whatever. And I'm happy to just answer what questions you have. This script is paid. I developed it with FlowBoost, and we developed it together. So I don't want you to, I don't want any false advertising. This is not a free script. But I'll also eventually have a standard shopping script here as well in the future that will essentially do the same. And I think the really important things like high quality traffic still matters. Everyone's saying that Google Ads has changed, and yes, it has changed, but intent has not changed. And yes, there
Well
may
said.
be longer queries that are going into Google Ads, but in reality, it's not like people are typing very different stuff now than they used to. And I think we just have to kind of stay in that spot of control, because anytime I've been able to control the terms that are coming in, I've seen success. And most people
There you
just
go.
leave it to target ROAS and target CPA, and they say, okay, like hopefully this works, and then they don't know why it's not working, because guess what?
Yeah.
This is a WYSIWYG that no one knows about, and you're trying to create a whole new industry. Like Google doesn't understand that, and so yeah, I think we just have to kind of put on our good marketer hats again and be able to say, yeah, if people are in market for this, this is what they're going to search for. And I don't think Google's there yet in regards to knowing every single business use case. I just don't.
No, 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 they definitely do not. It's funny. All you have to do is look at, you know, the quality score system to understand that Google does not understand the details and the small gray area between industries. To understand that no, this is very relevant. I know that you don't understand the quality score value between this keyword and this service, but no, they do not. Large automated systems are far from perfect. Certainly with Google Ads. So, well, I thank you so much, Artur, for being here, talking through this, and I've been enjoying the script. I plan to continue using it, and I appreciate you jumping on and chatting through it.
Thanks so much for having me on, and yeah, I appreciate just being the only script that you've decided to use. That's a huge honor, especially after how much you've poured out into the whole PPC community, and just you've helped shape a generation of PPCers, multiple generations, and I'm very thankful because you've helped me in my journey. So thanks for having me on, and thanks for all of the free knowledge that you continue to give out to people.
All right. Thank you, Artur. I appreciate the time that you've given us. And if you would like to reach out to him or see the video that he's produced, he has a recording to show you how to install the script, where to get it. You can find all of that information in the description wherever you are listening or watching the show. And I encourage you to reach out. I think it is worth trying. I think it is absolutely worth the investment. It's a really small price to pay for a script that can really expand your ability to make fast changes to your Google Ads account that I think is worth the effort. So I appreciate the time that he shared with us, and if you'd like to reach out to me, you can find me at chrisschaefer.com. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week.